Hello everyone, I'm Wendell Jones and welcome to this edition of the program Jones and Company. On this program we examine national issues of the Bahamas. May 2015, the Bahamas will be celebrating in a kind of way that will welcome the world to the Bahamas. It will be the Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival Festival. And today on our program we are going to talk about it because many questions are being asked about it in the community. There are a whole lot of people who are excited about it and some people who yet do not understand what is going to happen. My guest on the program today is Mr. Paul Major, who is the chairman of the Bahamas National Festival Commission. He's been here before, but since he was here, a whole lot of things transpired, including the launch of the Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival Festival. Mr. Major, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Nice to have you here today.
My pleasure is all mine.
The launch just a few weeks ago was spectacular.
Thank you.
For those who do not know what your commission is about and the festival is about, tell us.
Well, the originally Bahamas Carnival, which has now been transformed by the Prime Minister himself to Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival, which I don't think in and of itself is a bad thing. In fact, I think it is a good thing. I never had a problem with Junkanoo in the name personally because I am a Junkanoo, as you know. Having been a Valley boy all of my life.
Yes. Before
high school, I was cutting paper and rushing. So I'm a friend of Junkanoo. That's very clear. I think with the name change, I think it now brings to the fore Bahamas, which is already an international brand, Junkanoo, which we would like to become an international brand, and Carnival, which is definitely an international brand. So just to give you a little bit of history, when this whole idea was conceived by no lesser personalities than Willa Francis and Gus Cooper and Arthur Gibson, who are all icons in their own right in Junkanoo, legends, if you will, they thought that we should have something in addition to Junkanoo, as opposed to another Junkanoo. And they thought that we needed to get it in the international domain in particular because that's where you get the big bang from in terms of any economic kick from this thing. Carnival is a universally recognized name, and it is them who sold the idea that we should be doing a carnival in addition to Junkanoo. Now, if I have to explain why icons like Willa Francis and Gus Cooper thought it should have been Carnival, I don't think I'm up to that.
Yeah.
But again, there's been a lot of public outcry that, notwithstanding that we should be pushing what is, really organically ours. And this is where we are.
So Junkanoo then in the name is a compromise, is it?
I guess you could call it that, to make sure that Bahamians don't feel that, we are doing anything other than something that is truly Bahamian. Now, we've explained ad nauseum on all of these talk shows. We've all done the rounds ahead, myself, Freddie, everybody, to make the point that even though it is called Bahamian Carnival, everything about this carnival will be Bahamian. I talked to somebody recently today who said, we'd really like to see how we can incorporate more Bahamian things into this carnival you're bringing in. I said, no. You got it all wrong. It says we're not bringing anything in. We have gone to a number of carnivals to see how they do things, but never to wholesale lift what they're doing and drop it into the Bahamas. Never. I would never do that. Yeah. That's sacrilege for me. I'm a Junkanoo. Yeah. So, in fact, it was always about all things Bahamian. 3 of the main events are concentrated on Junkanoo. So that speaks volumes for itself. But to sell it, when you Google Junkanoo, you get nothing. Universal statistics, we've done the research, you get a couple of 100 hits on Junkanoo a year. You get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of hits on Carnival a year. Because they're just carnival goers.
So the name Carnival means something different to people, even though there are different carnivals around the world.
It means generally the spirit of participating in, a street party. That's kind of what it means universally. When you go to somebody out on the West Coast, you say, well, what do you know about Junkanoo? Or if they ask you, well, I've heard, what is Junkanoo? The first thing you say is like carnival.
Yes.
To get them to relate to what you're trying to explain,
Yes.
you say it's like carnival. So the whole concept was, again, to get people here so they could experience Junkanoo, for us to be able to export Junkanoo in a big way by bringing people here in the tens of thousands on an annual basis to participate in this. And once we get them kind of on that kick, we could now start to do things year-round, which the PM has already expanded our mandate to do, to develop a year-round tourist product, which we're calling the Heritage Tour Foundation, which we'll talk about at another time. But it's all about creating things for Bahamians to enjoy and relate to, and for tourists to come here and want to pay for.
So it's another attraction for tourists.
Absolutely.
Yes.
With an economic foundation. Economic foundation.
Good. You're putting $9 million, I understand, is the budget for the first one?
Yes.
Why $9 million?
Well, this is an expensive undertaking, Randall, and this is really small compared to, for instance, the Trinidad Carnival. I think the government puts in something like 70, 80 something million dollars into Carnival. And I mean, they don't get much out directly, but what they get indirectly is untold. All the hotels are full. Almost every house has visitors and guests sleeping on the floor. There's street vendors 24/7 virtually up and down the streets leading to and from the savannah. All the costumes are sold. They've got probably 40, 50,000 people on the parade route. One group alone that we participated in when we were there in February had 15,000 people in the group, Wendell. The guy collects $7-8 million in July the year before, which is half down for costumes, and collects the other half when the people come to collect them. He doesn't even go on the route to compete. Doesn't even go, and that's $1 million TT. He doesn't make his money. So out of that first $7 million, he probably spent $4 to produce the costumes. The rest of that is raw profit, Wendell.
So the Junkanoo Carnival in the Bahamas, you are seeking to create an industry almost.
Absolutely. We're trying to create a cultural industry, which most of the world have already done. Charlestown and everywhere else has managed to convert culture into income and economic benefit. Now, the cultural purists would argue with me, and I don't understand the origins of Junkanoo, and I don't understand what's Bahamian culture. Well, we could argue that till the cows come home.
But you're not taking away from Bahamian culture.
Not at all.
With the Junkanoo Carnival that you are seeking to develop.
No, we never were.
You are, in fact, enhancing the culture.
Yes. In fact, we've gone to every art form in the Bahamas and said, listen, we want you to embrace what we're doing and be the beneficiaries of what we're doing. I met today with the people from the Rum Fest, and they are saying, how do we partner? I says, well, it's natural for me because you're trying to advance Bahamian culture by getting people in and around the fort. You're trying to get people to buy Bahamian artifacts, souvenirs, Bahamian food. That's exactly what we're trying to promote. I said, so, and they were just talking. I said, you don't have to sell me. I'm sold. The only thing you have to tell me is how are we going to integrate our two ideas so that we can help brand you, promote you, maybe even subsidize you to advance what you're doing, because I know you took a hit last year on your effort. I went, sometimes it was busy, sometimes it wasn't. So you took a financial hit. But if we could help you brand this and promote it through the channels that tourism has made available to us, you've got a much better chance of success.
Paul Major, you have one of the most impressive resumes among young Bahamians. You've been general manager of Bahamas Air, you've been managing director of the Development Bank, you've been managing director of BAIC, and before that, you've been in the top position at Citibank. So you bring a tremendous amount of administrative skills to this Junkanoo Carnival. How is the commission organized to develop and to promote this?
A good question. When I first met with the PM, and he says, Dougie, which he affectionately calls me, you're a Jonkanu. You understand small business. You've worked with them most of your life. You're a natural fit to try and bring this thing all together because you understand the Jonkanu sensitivities, if not the total cultural sensitivities, and you have a commitment to the development and sustainability of small business. I've been preaching that from I was in Citibank. In fact, that was our strength. People like you and all the young doctors and lawyers, they all came to us because they met a friendly face in there that they could sit down and talk to and understand what they wanted to do. And many of them have gone on to do well. Many of them still thank me today for giving them their seed capital to do what they've now turned into mega businesses. So that is why I took this on. Let me be clear about that. The next discussion moved to who's going to constitute the commission. And I said, PM, we really need to have people that are business savvy, that understands how do you turn subvention into economic stimulus. It can't be just a subvention and the money falls into a black hole. You've got to find a way to convert that into economic stimulation that touches a broad base of Bahamians, create and expand small businesses. And that's a hard concept to get through, and believe me, I'm prepared to fight through it. We are prepared to fight through it. So we chose people like Chester Cooper, head of PAF, Ed Fields, senior guy at Atlantis, Robert Sands, senior guy at Bahama, Felix Stubbs, IBM, Inga, senior gal over at John Bull, Inga, the heir apparent for the Breezes business, Antonius Roberts, who has since gone his own way. Mm-hmm. Who else we've got? Dr. Barry Russell, Freddie Munnings. You know, these are all people that...
Max Gibson.
Max Gibson, yes. I'd like to acknowledge Max and wish him well and speedy recovery. Max Gibson, for sure, one of the hardest working commissioners. In fact, it may have contributed to his, having this little health issue because he worked hard. People like Ed take 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes out of a day to do this stuff, and for no pay. It's just for the love of trying to get some economic stimulation in the cultural sector. So then now we had to get some cultural people in there, people like Christus Chillian and Arthur Gibson and Les, as I said, Obi Pinling. But we had Willa Francis. So we got some cultural people in there to make sure that we didn't lose sight of that. But by the same token, we didn't want to bring that purist cultural attitude in the room because that gets caught up and bogged down in a lot of academic discussion and philosophical discussion. And then they totally lose sight of the fact that, but we're not helping the economy through this. And every other country is using culture, particularly this year, which is the year of culture, to advance their cultural attributes to expand their economy. Mm-hmm. And it's a winner because tourists are looking for that. Anything natural and indigenous that you could reflect on as a part of your history, as a part of your culture, that's what people come here to see.
The government is putting $9 million into this.
Yeah.
What is the private sector doing? Is this a government thing, or is this, or shouldn't it be a government-private sector enterprise?
It will be, Wendell, and we have just finished because you see, we had to do the launch. We had to have our what you might call marketing collateral to be able to go to sponsors like yourself and say, Wendell, this is what this could do for you. You're going to make money off this carnival, like every other radio station, every other television station, every soft drink producer, every brewery. The people downtown are going to make more money because we're going to get the people off the ships. The airport is going to be busier. The laundry is going to make more money because people have to get more clothes clean. The man who sells shoes is going to sell more. The velocity of money during this period, Randall, is going to generate close to $30 million in this economy. To your question, we are definitely going to approach the private sector. But like I said, we had to get our collateral material together so that we can approach them on the basis of how they will benefit from the carnival and why does it make sense in the long term for this to be successful. And we will approach them, big and small. And I think we will be successful. It's just that we didn't do it as yet because we didn't have the program totally tight yet. And to be able to demonstrate to them, here's the prototype. We did it in Pompey Square. We're going to do it in a much bigger and grander way early May.
This is not going to be just a street festival.
No.
Okay. Because when people talk about carnival, they believe that it's only a street festival, as you would have in some countries, or Mardi Gras that you would have in some countries. This is beyond a street festival. How expansive will it be throughout the community?
Okay. And it's a myth that most carnivals are just a street festival.
Yes, yes.
Most of them have.
That is the perception.
Yeah, and I think it's a wrong one. The truth is, all the parties and musical tents that happen in and around carnival time is really where all the excitement occurs and where the money is made through vendors selling every manner of thing alongside of the street, every manner of thing they sell. So musical concerts is a staple for all carnivals. In Trinidad, they have about 3. They've got the steel pan, the calypso, and then the one other one that we went to. But they've got 3 major musical concerts. Then they've got a couple of street marches. So we're going to have the Midnight Rush, which will be after the concert, and then we're going to have the Street Rush on Saturday. And we're going to have a junior Junkamania parade, and then we're going to have the King of the Bands, or the Junkanoo music presenting in orchestra form as opposed to the typical form. Again, to try and get our music on the international stage, because as we have it now on Bay Street, it's good for us, sounds good, gets us jumping, but are you going to sell 1 million records of it? So we're trying to convert that same sound to something that is marketable and exportable.
We have not done a very good job in marketing Junkanoo, have we? While it is known by some in the world, you talked about earlier on the hits that you get when you Google Junkanoo. You don't get as many as when you Google Carnival. One would have thought that having the parade twice a year and how it has developed, how it has expanded, that Junkanoo would be better marketed. How are you marketing the Junkanoo Carnival for May of 2015?
It's certainly going to be different to what you see on Bay Street, Boxing Day, and New Year's Day. I can't say that it is true that Junkanoo hasn't been marketed. The problem is, what are you marketing? When you market a guy in the New York market, you say, well, I want you to come to Junkanoo. Well, what are you asking me to do? To come and sit on a bleacher and watch a Junkanoo parade from midnight until 2 o'clock the next day with as much as half-hour dead periods in the parade. I go to Junkanoo every year, and between every 2 major groups, I fall asleep. And I tell my wife, wake me up when the Valley coming, when the Saxons coming, when One Family coming. That's where we are, Wendell. As advanced as we are, the high quality of work that we produce, the advances we've made in musical instruments and beats and what have you, we still can't get on the parade route in a timely manner and keep the parade continuous. There are gaps like you don't believe. You probably don't go to Junkanoo for the same reason. It takes too long and you fall asleep in between major groups. Now, so what's there to sell? So you get a trickle of tourists coming out there at midnight to watch this thing. You do a day parade like they are in most other places. People get up 11 or 8, 9 o'clock, go on the parade 10, 11, rush until 5, 6. They have a good time all day. They can bring the kids out. You know, it's a whole different atmosphere. And you're telling them to come and participate, not spectate. Major difference. because they could see bigger and better shows if they would just go sit down and watch a show. So the question is, how do you get them involved in your culture and spend money to be involved, as opposed to spending $25 to come sit down on the bleacher?
Okay.
And that's the difference in how we plan to market.
So the visitors to the Bahamas then, our tourists, they would be able to purchase a costume
Precisely, online.
And they would be able to rush.
To rush, absolutely. And we're selling this through the cruise ships because, as you know, there are anywhere from 20 to 25 tourists, guests and crew that set out in our harbor almost every weekend. We got almost 2 million tourists that come through the hotels, so you got a kind of slack period right after April. So what we're trying to do is to get the hotels, the airlines, and the ground transport people to come up with packages. And we met with the Nassau Pride and Promotion Board just last week. We've already met with the cruise ships. We're about to meet with the hotels. We put these packages together so people will start planning their vacations for around that time. So in addition to the discounted package to get here and to live at the hotel, you can now spend another $200, say, to get a costume and participate in the culture.
Let's take a break here on the program. Paul Major, the chairman of the National Festival Commission, our guest on the program today. We'll come right back.